Want to know why? Ask how. On Monday, June 18th, our dear beloved president, Donald Trump, announced that he wanted to instantiate, to create, a sixth branch of the military, the first new branch of the military to be created in 71 years, a Space Force. Now, scary as anything is, especially anything military, coming out of the mouth of this particular president, there is a good reason to have a Space Force. When the guys in the Air Force currently are in charge of space activities for the military. This doesn't make any sense. Why? Because Air Force guys are pilots. Air Force guys want airplanes. If you ask them to do something in space, they find a way to divert the money into more airplanes. Yes, they have surveillance satellites in the sky, but they don't see rockets. The development of inexpensive rockets that can be mass-produced in quantity, that can get stuff into orbit and beyond orbit for very low price, they don't see that as part of their game. Give them money, they buy airplanes. If you establish a separate Space Corps, you're giving a bunch of military guys the duty of buying rockets and of buying craft that fly beyond the sky that are even less expensive and more sophisticated than rockets. Is the space domain worthy of a separate branch of the military? The space domain is potentially the biggest thing that has ever happened to humanity. It is potentially the biggest thing that has ever happened to the grand project you and I are a part of, along with 8,700 others, or 8.7 million other species. The grand project of life. Why? Because so far life has been confined mostly to a skinny little surface, a tiny little scum, on seemingly isolated parts of this big ball of stone, this great big gravity ball that we call home. Life has barely penetrated the surface. Yes, some bacteria have gone 12 miles deep and are turning raw rock into biostuff, into food and fuel, but so far life is a project that has barely gotten started on this earth. But so far life in 4.5 billion years has taken one barren, hostile, poisonous ball of stone, one home of climate catastrophe, one climate catastrophe after another, and has turned it into the raw material for greenery, for sophistication, for things that are ornate and flamboyant, for flowers that show off, for animals that prance and dance and do their stuff, and for the cultures of humanity. That's with one ball of stone. And one ball of stone we barely penetrated with the green team of life. Now there are an infinite number of gravity balls, hostile balls of stone, balls of climate catastrophe, balls of disaster and doom above our heads. And what are we life forms best at? We are doom riders. We are catastrophe tamers. We take hostile balls of stone and we turn them into biostuff, into the riches and flamboyance of life. Waiting above our heads are far, 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 far more resources for life than life has ever encountered before, and life is hungry for it. How do we know? Because life is richly imperialistic. Life is materialistic. Life loves to grab new territories. That's why those bacteria, those autolithotrophs, 12 miles beneath your feet and mine, are turning raw rock into biostuff right now. We humans are running around on the face of this planet crying that we have run out of resources, that nature has eaten as much of this planet as it possibly can, and that right now we need to contract. Are you kidding me? Bacteria are showing us the way. Bacteria are smarter than we are at understanding that for every ounce of biostuff on this planet, of stuff that is living and has lived, there are 100 million ounces of raw material waiting to be kidnapped, seduced, and recruited. into the grand scheme of life. And that's what awaits us above our head. Gravity ball after gravity ball, whose poisons we will turn into pleasures, whose disasters we will turn into delights, whose wastelands we will turn into wonders. And we need, unfortunately, the military to police the place the way that the lifeguard polices the seas for you and me. Why? China has demonstrated in 2007 its first space weapon. China militarized space in 2007 by putting up a space weapon that destroyed a satellite. Russia, in the last 2 weeks, has proposed cleaning up space debris with super powerful lasers. What will those lasers be? Do they have any other alternative uses? Yes, they're death rays in the making. China is taking over the earth with its new Silk Road. It's what it calls its Belt and Road. It's a $15 trillion project, a project worth almost as much as the total gross domestic product of the United States. It covers 66 countries. It covers 4.4 billion human beings. It includes South America, the continent we've always regarded, we Americans, as our own property. And China is taking it over. It's taken over between 15 and 20 ports, and it is upgrading them in ways this planet has never seen to have cargo capacities that make the cargo capacities of the ports in North America look Lilliputian, tiny by comparison. China is taking over the globe, but so far the United States owns the sky. The United States is the only country that has put human beings on the moon. The United States is the only country that has generated reusable satellites that can be relaunched, that can bring the cost of access to space down. All of that is going to mean that someday we will have O'Neill colonies in the skies, colonies with 500 square miles of territory, with forests, parks, farms, trees, and wildlife. That's the real estate development of the future, and it's not just going to benefit you and me. It's going to benefit the 8.5 million other species, the 8.5 million other life forms that will have entirely new environments in which to recreate themselves and reinvent themselves in radically new homes. That's what's at stake here. We have a crazy president who wants to have a military parade in Washington and who wants to imitate tin pot dictators. Well, I'm sorry. The fact is, space is the future of humanity, and either America takes space while the Chinese take the Earth, and we not leave the Earth behind, we give the Chinese a run for their money and try to stay number one, or we will ultimately be a has-been civilization, like the Venetians, the people from Venice in Italy, who seemed to own the planet in 1450 and who lost it by 1500. I don't want us to lose the future of life and the future of humanity. There is a logic to an independent Space Force, a sixth branch of the military, no matter what crazy and demented president proposes it. This is Howard the Humongous speaking to you from the future. It's your job and my job to make. Or, want to know why? Ask how. And now for the sleazy, slimy, sneaky little off button.